There are 5 parts of time's complete body. The first is the order as itself, as truth before the order of the finite. As the order of the finite, as the second part of time's complete body, as what is acted and or grouped as the third part of time's complete body, as the extent of that, as that which is progressive, like for example, as the extent of truth about the future that we could know now, as its system law. For example, as the seasons to come. But we have only been allowed to appreciate this since semi-ancient times through systems tactical ulterior from nature. And there is the fifth part of time's body, which is on the other side. That it's that part of time we don't know about, but we know it exists. Beyond why just we know about the part of the season. The spring has yet to come. But see, now it is through systems tactical ulterior. See species coach in the coming plan for the temporary slash lasting market stability, nature of market, and mean stacking, and uses of negatives to cause positives that are also positive to its system, or else to discern that and value also honestly the discernment of uses of positives that are only positive as criminal insidiousness nature. This is why nature and how nature we show us the difference between how truths can be used for lies. And regardless if it's by that person or someone else, the motives too. Where where extraterritorial is involved, the motivations are not involved, but needed for the discernment here. And where hyper extraterritorial has not been defined, we have right here the hyper evidential that has also been not defined because it has been replaced. There have been expert uses and natures of going back in sides, back and forth with sides of campuses, with good sides of legal issues, subjects treatments, predicate treatments, details treatments, tactical ulterior from how nature appreciates it. We have predicate acts with facts, methods, roles, needs, and natures as people speaking for the about what crimes are about what wars are about what revolution is about. Revolution is about how James Madison was our founder, who George Washington made an agreement with. And then he was our president too. And he was the face of our founders, obviously Native American too. They had the counter store at 13 positions in more than 13 colonies, sickly distinctly north and southern colonies, sickly distinctly with things like slavery, witch trials. What are witch trials about? Even if they were completely made up, or what? The difference. Think about context. Think about the motivations, defenses of someone who's going to defend. Oh well, I was just doing this because I that's what I thought witch trials were about. Hyper extraterritorial. There was a crazy law system individually grouped in together. The sum of that, people who given some the summary of physics. You guys have the physics, the identity of physics, tactically smaller than, while simultaneously tactically bigger than it is. Tactical ulterior from how nature's identity maintains demonstration of what is greater than all things and more finite than them. So appreciation of the 5 parts of time, it comes with this. The body of Christ. This is decipher. If you guys can't appreciate this, you can't appreciate science the samely. You can't appreciate subject treatment. And this preaching method knew you would. I mean, the religious books were written with consciousness that even the people that would keep them, they would hide what says right at the beginning. It qualifies the individual to describe the identity of the hyper simultaneous. They're not supposed to agree on the name because we're supposed to be led by the hyper invisible but still discernible. That's why there are more than one names for the verb because it's complete identity, as each is greater than, is more finite than its physical body. But this is tactical ulterior from how you have both because you have come through schools abridged. We're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged. Before our founders were born in America and in Russia, the suburbs were designed for the torture, extortion, and slavery of themselves. So this is, I don't know what names are behind it, but that's why the intelligence community influenced Tucker Carlson recently to cut off President Putin about what came first. Because they're keeping his voice out, they're keeping James Madison's out. So they can pretend people have delusions. Through delusions wrought people with all kinds of natures of criminal born, ones with badges, doctors of mental health. This is how the mind works. Anything else is a delusion. Ancient snow people, two parentheses, positive, negative, and question mark. And they're simultaneously valued because of where and how the identity, the hyper invisible but still discernible, which is distinct from the invisible but still discernible. How it can be used to answer all our questions individually grouped in together. It employed names A through Z of the human species volume of individual, a human species body of individual bodies. This is how the ancients appreciated the languages individually grouped and together, because this is the discernment of a forever nature. That is a hyper additional nature, which is part of how we could discern. This is the same identity of hyper invisible but still discernible possession over the subject. That's why every subject individually grouped and simultaneously, we could only grapple with that three ways. And then there's still slash more subjects coming in for the identity of hyper relativity too. The theory of relativity, shock and awe. We entertain because we have natural care for people. We entertain their weaknesses and their strengths, tactical terror from how nature defines them actually. Not one modern country has had possession of their name. Clearer than day. And, and way more probable than descriptions of each of the sciences. So therefore, history could afford to discern. Is much. In other words, so these are the five parts of time. And this is what we do. In other words, we have to do it with exception nature, exceptions with the countries that with nuclear weapons, and any exceptions, and admitting together. When we solve border issues like this, space means come out of nowhere. Where all of a sudden the industry comes out, a temporary slash lasting industry comes out of nowhere. Means to afford nature's of correcting tactically denatured Earth landscape theater designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts in nature, involved with the torture, extortion, and slavery of our founders, let alone of our presidents, and how and at both ways too. Others communicate and has been communicated for James Madison in our faces because the short words that are proper, let alone their protraction at each age of fact achieving nature. They are functional to this preaching method they use as databases and assignments of our name, tactical ulterior, from its own. And the differences between originally and still, the intelligence and or the interbranch, as collusions timed increasingly with everything and one that comes before them. overt criminal enterprises and private ones for having the same enemy. Forgiveness is relative to where and to how religions are about the law, and no one's capable of discerning it because everyone spoke with the law after being child abused. I don't care, and all exception, and/or as rolled with exception nature, only allowed to be used tactical ulterior from how nature communicates about to us with exception nature, where and how we have the same color eyes, black pupils, except for how we have different color eyes, except for how some have the same color eyes too, and with exceptions with the halo part, and some have that, and they have different color skin. Some of them have the same color skin and the same color eyes, with the exception. And the ancients figured this out before sciences became criminally foreign influenced. Therefore, the names of the sciences. For example, this is one of the reasons people cannot afford to discern why it says only this part right here in the Old Testament is what you defend, where the names of the people of the sciences will come together. Only right here. And that's right before Adam and Eve. And those names with the generation of humanity. But you want to have irrational. You want, and two, black and white. That breaching method employed black and white. How come we never hear that brought up? Because other is put things that are pretended theory and legitimate, they are not. Don't forget roles of predicate, roles of words like crimes, positive and negative. They can't defend that and afford discern. Their roles of predicate acts of fact clearer than day on the suburbs, let alone New York City. That is people stacking. You think we hunger each day, we thirst, and it's a natural reliant upon people. The suburbs are tactically nature. The worms are going. You have to do all these things to try to, and it takes years to get to even get a little of the worms come back, and then they're real small. In other words, then the birds have to eat different things. And nature communicates with positive or negative value nature progression because we discern its identity only to an extent. But everywhere we discern that equal with that amount we could discern is its identity of relationship to itself equal as a volume because that's where it's connecting to us, where value is nature slash nature as value. Where value is value as nature slash nature as value. And vice versa, this is true conversely, simultaneously slash hyper simultaneously, per where and how we can discern the identity of hyperrelativity existent and having been. English was revealed to teach this boxing. It's just things at the beginning of the Quran. See, no one's supposed to lie, or they're supposed to kill the person. But you guys aren't. The people that want to use the kill part to keep collusions, to keep not discern what is actually recorded. It says on the beginning of the Quran, it tells the person they don't even this tells the people who read it, the religion is supposed to love everyone, even if they don't agree about the name of the hyper simultaneous. But if they do agree to it, even if they agree to it, they're supposed to. They're not obligated to pray in any mosque. They're for the slightest reason. It qualifies the individual to have power of the discernment of the hyper simultaneous. See, the hyper invisible is distinct from the invisible, but still discernible. And this is also with the 5 parts of time. They're also 3 ways bound, distinctly per how we could discern it. And so the Trinity comes with Allah's name too. L is the middle 13th letter of the English alphabet. This longing. This stands for longing. There's a program coming too. I'll donate it if you guys to follow mandated law because we have to show all the names in the news. They have timed uses of corners of streets, self value through how the big world, small world thing works. All stupid jerks. Before our founders were born, and from here to Russia to Ukraine, the suburbs were designed by a breaching method involved with their torture, extortion, and slavery, and other things others ourselves have been blamed for that, including our founders. Others communicated for them than they communicated for us to communicate for themselves, like about how why they didn't have free speech and how why they had to be counter extorted with James Madison's plan. James Madison, in the face of our founder, as our face of our founders, how he didn't have free speech that way, only the way we know. But how we also know simultaneously he didn't have free speech a whole bunch of ways. Everyone had to hide their actual motivation for what actually forced them to be unity out of nowhere. It gave them that unity. Otherwise, those crazy laws against everyone would have killed them because it temporarily extorted them. And those laws, that's why no one would mess with it and everyone would pretend that everyone pretends they speak about free speech. Oh, well, I was just, that's my motivation. But then they won't and cannot follow mandated law. And the intelligence community, they leak this too when they're sensibility. They jump in other people's conversation. They have no clue what they're speaking about. And the intelligence community forces it too by attaching everyone around them to fake words with themselves and with others since we're kids. They're putting us with fake communications in databases, fake audio and video on campuses, each of ones we will go to, and making connections of it on and off because they know how nature communicates. There's a vertical and horizontal method. And now it's all headache for everyone because everyone spoke about money and value. All. So there are millions owed by people that have nothing to do with real health care, with the mental health, for example, of Harvard Hospital. A millions being stolen from these people, and there's only like 350 streets in Harvard, and they still rolls with their differences, black, white, KKK theme, and their patients and criminals all running in to hide life progressions at the same time with their doctors. Get them off the fake conversations with me. Get Judge Napolitan onto paper, please. I mean, to get them the Connecticut interbranch onto paper, one name and sequence. So they don't have to bring in their family members. All that is used by the breaching method. These people are increasingly, in other words, and I loved all my teachers. All they're trying to make fake exceptions because they're using it online. That's how they confess all this stuff. You guys should mind the law when someone tells you I was, in other words, WFSB attached me to fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack, fake locations with themselves, with others. And I caught them doing that with a principal child abuser who confessed a whole bunch of other things to me. And they hid that also with WTNH faked emails and more people with obscure pictures since, still since, and the neighbors of people involved, like people in corners of streets uses like people with the name Ian with the FBI, further and people with whiting forensics when I was a kid and before I was born, and then when I was a young adult, and now as an adult, they're increasingly roles. I don't know about body dumping spots, and there are other methods and natures of uses of that can be discerned because there were murders at the time and shootings and confessions. See, confessions come because there are anomaly created when people jump into other people's business and lie. And these are and in this context where you're communicating to little kids. Look, you guys have Fox News pretending to be against things that they're involved with. Right next to Tucker Carlson's college, there are transsexual people involved with the black-white KKK theme. Military police switching names, forging names too, because this is identity. This is breach.